If you're not charging the full market value in rent, then you are doing a lot of damage that you might not realise you're doing. I see it all the time. And if you're a landlord, you know if you're not charging enough. You know if you could be charging more. But you probably think, well, the tenants are paying their rent every month. It's just a little bit of money. They're happy. I want to keep them long term. Or maybe you're just worried that they'll leave if you increase the rent. But I'm serious when I say that there are 3 areas of damage that you're doing and 3 areas of risk that you're causing by not charging the full market value in rent. Now, I'm not saying go out and ramp up the rent as high as you can. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But I am saying you must keep your rent at a full and fair market value. First of all, if you don't, then you are putting the tenant more at risk. Because if they're paying a low amount in rent, then they are stuck. If they ever need to move out of your property because maybe they need a bigger house, maybe they have a child, maybe they need to downsize or move to a different location, something like that, then they have become accustomed to paying low rents. And that makes it really difficult for them to be able to find another property to move into. Now, that sounds pretty minor, but what about the other way round? What about if you need the tenant to leave? Maybe you need to sell the property. Maybe you need to move into the property yourself because of cost of living going so high at the moment. You might need to sell your existing property and move into your rental property. Maybe it's another reason that you need to remove that tenant. But if that tenant is going to find it difficult to get another property because they're unable to afford the current market value in rent, then that's going to make it so much more difficult for them to leave. It's going to take you longer to remove them, and it might end up having to go through the entire court process. So overall, you are putting your tenants at risk and you're damaging your tenants' futures by not charging the full and fair market value in rent. But also, you're damaging yourself and you're putting yourself at risk as a landlord. Because if you're not charging the full market value in rent and situations happen like we're currently experiencing where mortgage rates go through the roof, energy costs go through the roof, food, everything is just costing so much more money now. And if that means that your costs as a landlord are going up, but you've not been charging the full and fair amount of rent each month, it means that you put yourself at risk of not having enough money to be able to fully, properly and effectively manage, maintain, repair everything that goes on in that property. What happens if the boiler blows up and you haven't got the money to fix it and to replace it? Well, what do? You have to get money from somewhere because it's your legal obligation to repair things like that. So you must give yourself that financial security to be able to repair the property, to maintain the property at all times when needed. And it's that much more difficult to do that if you're not getting enough money in rent. Now, again, I don't mean just go and ramp up the rent as high as you can. That's not what I'm saying. That's also a dangerous thing to do, to put the rent up to the top level straight away. Another reason that you should always charge full and fair market value in rent is if you ever did need to sell it and the tenant was in a tenancy, then you'd probably need to try and sell it to another landlord. So my company, for an example, we run what we call the landlord to landlord property sales service. We still haven't thought of a catchier name than that. But if you think of a better name for that service than landlord to landlord property sales service, let me know. But that's been running now for some time. So quite often we sell properties that have got tenants in them because either the landlord doesn't want to evict the tenant or the tenant is in a tenancy, but the landlord really needs to sell. So what we've done is connected the landlords and property investors that want to buy more properties with the landlords that want to sell those properties. Simple as that. Now, in that time, if you're an investor and you want to buy a buy-to-let property that's got a tenant in it, reliable, paying their rent, good return on investment, then you have to calculate the current rent that's being achieved. So if you've got a property right now and you are undercharging in rent, and you know you are if you need to sell it to another landlord, you're not going to get as much for that property because you're not charging as much in rent. So you're limiting your options and you're potentially losing yourself some money. Now, all of this sounds like I'm telling you to just go and increase the rent. Now, if you are going to do that, I would urge you to do that gradually. Don't just lump a rent increase on your tenants. And if you are going to do a rent increase, then do it in the correct way. In fact, go onto my YouTube channel and search Section 13 rent increases, because that will show you how to correctly carry out a rent increase. But make sure you do it the right way. Make sure you do it gradually. Don't just jump it up quickly. That's more damaging. But also make sure your tenant understands why. That's really important. Now, it might cause them to leave the property, but if you're losing a couple of £100 a month in rent, then unfortunately you are doing the tenant a favour. The tenant wouldn't do that favour back 9 times out of 10. Is the tenant going to give you a couple of £100 a month in free money? Definitely not. It has to be as an investment. And the last thing I want to say is, however you have managed to get this property as an investment, whether you've inherited it, maybe you've moved out of one property, moved into another, but kept the property you moved out of, maybe you've saved up your own cash and you've invested in a buy-to-let property, or maybe there's another way that you've come across this property. Whatever that way is, it's an investment for you, and at some point in your decision, you've decided to invest in a property and keep it long term so that you've got some sort of future investment, future benefit for the money that you've used in it. Even if you've inherited a property, at some point in that time, you've made that investment decision to keep that property, not sell it, and you've therefore decided to leave that cash in it. So that's cash that you've invested in that property. But during that time that you own that property and it's an investment, then you must make sure that you are generating a return on that investment. Not only to do all of the things that I've just been through, to make sure that your tenant is accustomed to paying a fair market value, to make sure that you have enough money to maintain and repair that property from top to bottom, especially nowadays with all the legislation that's going crazy around property maintenance, repairs, standards, the whole renters reform bill, all of those things. And also to make sure that your asset is as valuable as it can be if you ever needed to sell it. Things happen. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know what's going to happen to our economy, to the future of property. If certain people in the government get their way, then you're not going to be able to increase the rent for much longer. There's going to be rent caps, and there's going to be, I don't think there's going to be rent caps, but they're talking about rent caps. They're talking about certain things in the private rented sector that would make it very difficult for you as a landlord to start making money. And it's important for a landlord to make money, in my opinion. A lot of tenants don't like the fact that their landlords are making money, but landlords have to make money. They have to make money to be able to repair your property, maintain your property, and keep you as a tenant safe, secure, comfortable, happy, and living in good standards. They have to make money so that they can keep the property, pay the mortgage payments, insurance payments, all the maintenance and repairs I've just mentioned, management costs, everything that's associated, tax, everything that's associated with being a landlord. And also, as a landlord, you have to be able to exit if you need to. You have to be able to sell that property if you need to. So make sure that you are charging the fair and full market value in rent. Now look, I have letting agencies in the south. So if you need a rent review, if you need a full rent appraisal, my team will do that for you if you need it. You can contact me, you can comment below, you can message me directly through my Facebook page, You can email me directly. I respond to every single email that I receive. It's tom@soanegroup.co.uk. So send me an email and I will connect you up with my team. If you're elsewhere in the country, I know lots of really good letting agents around the country, and I'm happy to just connect you up by email so that you can get in touch with the right people that can give you the right rent values, but also, more importantly than just finding out how much the rent can be, finding out the best strategy to achieve that rent. It's not just about, here you go, Mr. and Mrs. Tenant, here's a rent increase, thank you very much. There's a way to do it. So speak to my team, speak to me, we'll get the rent to where it should be. But in the meantime, make sure you're thinking a bit more outside the box when it comes to how much rent you should be charging. You're not doing your tenants a favor. They're not doing you a favor. You're not doing yourself a favor, and the property, you're not doing your property a favor either. So good luck with that, everyone. Hope that all made sense. If it doesn't, or you've got any questions, then as always, get in contact. I'd love to hear from you. Comment below if you are not charging the full amount. In fact, if you're not charging the full amount, comment below what your reason for that is. It's probably something that I said earlier, that you feel like they're good tenants, so you're going to let them off that 100 quid or a couple of hundred quid. Or maybe you're a bit worried that they'll leave if you do increase the rent, and then it might be difficult to re-let the property. Let me know what you think. Either way, make sure you're doing the best that you can do. See you later.